Hello, this is Northwest Coast native artist David Neal, and today I've got a story for you about the Great Flood and the four wolves who survived the flood to become the first ancestors of the Kwakwaka'wakw people. Please take a moment to like and subscribe and hit the notification button. Thank you for listening. Let's get started. Before the Great Flood, there were four sibling wolves, and they lived at a place called Northside. One of the wolves was a female, and the other three were males. In those times, they were able to transform from wolf to human and back. It was time of plenty, and life was easy. One day it started to rain, and it didn't stop for many days. The river started to overflow, the valleys started to fill up, and then the water started to creep up the mountainsides. If we are to survive, we must climb to the top of Mount Phosphorescence, the oldest wolf said. As the rain continued to fall, they made their way up the steep mountain until they reached the summit. They looked out and saw where once had been a verdant land, there was water in all directions. We'll have to wait here until the rain subsides, the oldest wolf said. The rains continued for 4 more days, and the water nearly reached the summit of the mountain before it stopped. Then it took many more days until the water went down enough for them to descend the mountain. We should take off our wolf masks and assume human form, the oldest wolf advised. That will make it easier for us to descend the mountain. They took off their wolf masks and assumed their human shape. They climbed down the mountain, and despite several close calls, they reached the river valley below. The world has changed, and we must change also, said the eldest wolf. We will keep our human form, and we will take human names. My name will be listened to. Yes, we are better off to live as humans now. I will take the name Healing Woman, the female wolf said. I will be called Supernatural One, the second eldest wolf said. And I shall be known as Slow in House, the youngest wolf said. All four had supernatural powers, but they didn't know who was the most powerful. So every day they watched one another and wondered who amongst themselves was the most powerful. One day, Listen To said to the others, I want to see your powers. Let us play together. The youngest ones knew that they were no match for Listen To, so they declined to test themselves. That is a good idea, brother. I am also curious about our powers, now that we have transformed into humans, Healing Woman replied. Listen To put his hand on his stomach and began to make noises like he was clearing his throat. He kept up the noise until he vomited up blood onto the ground. There amongst the blood was a perfectly clear piece of quartz crystal. Listen To picked it up, cleaned it, and held it up for his siblings to see. You've created a piece of quartz, Healing Woman exclaimed. You go a little ways over to the left, and I'll walk to the right, and let's see what we can do, Listen To suggested. Listen To knew that the piece of quartz had supernatural properties. It could pierce anything, even a tree or a thick rock could not withstand it. Healing Woman walked several paces away, and Listen To threw the piece of quartz towards her. She caught it easily and threw it back. That was good, sister. Let's try once more, Listen To said. This time he aimed at her chest and launched the quartz with all of his considerable strength. Healing Woman caught it as if it were traveling in slow motion and threw it back just as hard. Listen To caught the quartz, but he was surprised at the force behind her throw. Listen To had seen enough. He had learned that his sister was the most powerful of the siblings, so he threw the quartz into a distant mountain. It pierced the rock and went deep inside, where it remains until this day. Thereafter, it was known as Quartz Mountain. After that day, Listen To and Healing Woman knew of one another's power, and they were wary of one another. Some days later, Listen To gathered his brothers and sisters together and said, I've been wondering if we are the only ones who have survived the flood. I suppose it's possible that there are other survivors, Supernatural One suggested. Then let's find out, Listen To replied. I will call out to the 4 directions and let's see if anyone answers. Listen To put on his wolf mask, and he was instantly transformed into a wolf. He turned to the south and howled long and loud. Then he listened for several minutes, but there was no reply. He turned his face to the east and howled again, and then he listened, but there was no reply. He did this again facing the north, and there was no reply. Then listened to face the west, and howled long and hard, and then waited. This time, his call was answered with a howl that came from the land of the Koskomo people. That is coming from Koskomo, Slow and House said. That must be our cousin howling around the world. No one else heard my call. It seems that everyone else perished in the flood, Listen To said as he took off the wolf mask and became a man again. There are a few survivors, Healing Woman said. Listen To thought about their situation for a few days. On the fourth day, he was sitting in his summer seat in front of their big house, considering their circumstances, when Healing Woman, Slow and House, and Supernatural One came to join him. Before anyone had a chance to speak, Listen To approached Supernatural One, grabbed him, threw him on his neck, and bit him on the throat. The blood flowed freely, and within moments he was dead.
Slow House and Healing Woman were stunned and sat speechless.
Without a word of explanation, Listen To took his brother's body and cut it up into many small pieces. Then he gathered all the pieces together into a ball. I realize that you don't understand what I have done, Listen To said, but we are too few, and our brother's sacrifice will help our people to survive. Then Listen To threw the ball of flesh into the air and said, "Hi, hi, hi, hi." When the ball reached the apex of his throw, it was transformed into Eagle Down, and the wind scattered the pieces to the four directions. The down was blown all over the world and became the ancestors of the people of future generations. You will become the men and women of the future, Listen To said as he watched the down drift away on the breeze. You will travel to the four corners of this world, and you will become the tribes of future generations. Afterwards, Healing Woman stated that she was going to find a place to build a house of her own. She traveled to the upper part of Northside and found a pretty spot near a river. Healing Woman built a big house, and she named it Supernatural Power on the summit. Listen To and Slow and House went to look for a place to build their houses at the mouth of the river of Northside. The cedar trees were plentiful in that area, and they built a large and sturdy big house, which they named Sandbar. The river had many kinds of fish. They made a fish trap and caught a great many fish. Slow and House hung them on sticks and roasted them. Listen To had never seen the small oily fish before, and he thought to feed some to his dog. It ate the fish with gusto and was fine afterwards. He decided to name the fish Ooligan. Listen To discovered the tiny fish were rich in oil. He went and caught a large basket of fish, but he didn't share any with Slow and House. This led to a dispute, and Slow and House decided to go make his own house. Slow and House paddled his canoe to look for a site for his big house. He paddled along the lower course of the North Side River, and by evening he arrived at a flat spot that was sheltered from the weather. This became the site for his new house, which he named Next One. Listen To was trying to devise a way to catch some of the fish which were plentiful in the river. In the evening he went to sleep, and he dreamt that an old man came into his house. He took red cedar and split it into numerous pieces, which he tied together to make a rectangular frame that was closed on all sides except one. Then he took a long piece of cedar and warmed it by the fire, and it was good and hot. He bent it into a hoop. It was placed at the opening of the box of cedar sticks, so that it formed a small door. The old man built 4 of these, and then he motioned for Listen To follow him. They went down to the river and put it into water. "Remember all that I have shown you, my son," the old man instructed. "If you do this, you will catch many fish, and you shall never be hungry." In the morning, Listen To went down to the river to bathe. When he arrived at the river, the 4 fish traps from his dream were in the river, full of ooligan. He took the fish out of the traps and carried them up to the house, and had several of them for his breakfast. Afterwards, he wondered how to cook so many tiny fish. That evening he went to sleep, and again the old man came to him in a dream. He split a board from a cedar tree with a hammer and wedges. Then he showed Listen To how to make a cedar cooking box. The old man gathered a number of rocks about the size of his fist from the river. Then he heated them in the fire. He filled the box half full of water and put the red-hot rocks into the box. After the water was steaming hot, he put the ooligan into the box also, until it was nearly full. More hot rocks were added, and before long, ooligan oil began to appear on the surface of the water. The old man took a large clamshell, scooped it off, and poured it into cedar storage boxes. When they were full, he used the cedar roots to tie them closed. In the morning, Listen To awoke and went down to bathe. In front of the house, he discovered a large cooking box, which was full of hot water with ooligan oil floating on the top. There was also tongs to handle the hot rocks and a large clamshell. He set to work scooping off the fish oil, and before long he had 4 boxes full, which he stored in his house. After Listen To had finished storing his ooligan grease, Slow-and-House arrived in his canoe. Did you find a place for your house? Listen To asked. I did, and I built a house which I call Next One, Slow-and-House replied. What are you doing with those cedar boxes? I'm making fish oil from the ooligan. The technique of rendering fish oil came to me in the dream, Listen To explained. The birds here sing beautifully, Slow-and-House commented. They do. Every morning I hear to wake them singing. They sing Zawadel, 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 Listen To said. That could be the name of the tribe of your descendants, Slow-and-House suggested. I like that idea. And how do the birds near your house sing? Listen To said. They are larks, and they sort of whistle when they sing. Like this, Hawala, 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 Slow-and-House said. Then you should name your tribe Hawamis, Listen To suggested. Their descendants to this day are known as the Zawadinok and the Hawamis people. They are still known for being the first to trap oolgans and to use a cooking box to render oil from the tiny fish. To this day, they are known among the Kwakwaka'wakw for making some of the best fish oil. The descendants of Listen To, Slow-and-House, and Supernatural Woman became the first ancestors of the Kwakwaka'wakw people, who traced their ancestry back to the time before the Great Flood. The end.